I would first like to make it clear that I do not work for nor do I represent Intuit in any way. I'm just a fellow user who likes Quicken Essentials, and I'm trying to help out other users that might be trying to learn the program. I kind of put this together as a way to pick up where the manual left off. And also, the file here, this is just a script generated test file. In no way represents any of my finances. I just want to make that clear up front. First thing that you'll notice about Quicken Essentials is that everything is located in a single window. If you're familiar with using Windows versions, you'll probably see some similarities because it also has a single window approach as well. But for people coming from prior versions of Macintosh, you're going to see a lot different because nothing is in separate windows anymore. Like a true macOS application, you have your various source list items on the left, and what you click on the left will display on the right. Scroll through. Same thing, want to see a different account? Click on that. Over here we have various tools, listing of the accounts, and some simple reports down below. If I had a budget set up, which I don't in this dummy account, they'd be listed here. Some new users manage to lose this source list, and it's not hard to get back. There's a little disclosure triangle right here. You can just click it and go back and forth. Another thing, single click here. If you double click, which you can, it'll spawn a separate window. There's a few occasions where you want separate windows, but for the most part, working in a single window is far easier. Now let's go back to these tools. Up here you have the overview, and this gives you a general overview account where your spending's been for the last month. You can change the date range, your upcoming bills, and again, if I had a budget set up, it would give me some budget information there, and then basically a summary of the account values. Now here, this transaction listing, this is useful because this is showing you a global listing of all the transactions in these various accounts. So you're basically seeing everything lumped together. Notice you won't see a running balance over here because obviously they're from various different accounts. Scheduled transactions, again, this is a global listing of all the scheduled transactions from each different account. We'll get to all this later. Last download, if you had just downloaded transactions, you do online banking, you'd see those listed there. Category Explorer, good way to go through and start drilling down and seeing how you've been spending your money. We'll address that later. And an account summary is basically like a simple net worth report. You can go through and see what your values of all your different accounts are. But that basically is an overview of the main window. One thing I'd like to clarify is the difference between having different data files and different accounts. Each single data file can have multiple accounts within it, and if you ever want to add a new one, you can do it through the menu Accounts, New, or you can click on the plus sign down the lower side and you'll walk through adding a new account. It's pretty much unlimited on how many different accounts you can have within a single data file. But there may be different reasons why you want to keep some accounts separate from others. Let's say you want to keep your business finances separate from your personal finances. In that situation, you'd create a different data file. Go File, New, give a new name, we'll use Work File here. Save that to the desktop. And Quicken Essentials will start over just like you had opened a brand new file the first time you used it. Now one thing I want to point out, let's say you're trying to import multiple older copies, let's say from Quicken 2007 into Quicken Essentials, each separate file will have to be imported into a separate file in Quicken Essentials. You can't merge files. So let's say you have 3 QXF files, you have to go through File New and import each one separately. A lot of people will see that warning and think, oh, I can only import one file. Yes, you can have multiple different files with Quicken Essentials. You just can't merge them all together. Forward, let's look at the registers in greater detail. I can select an account on the left. One thing you can do is if you right click on it, you have the option to rename it, and you also have the option to delete it. If you decide to delete an account, you get a confirmation asking you if you really want to do this. I highly suggest you think twice before you delete an account. Not only are you losing historical data, but you're also possibly going to have orphan transfer transactions if you've got any transfers from any other account. The ideal way to handle an account you don't want to see or deal with any longer is to go up to the Accounts menu and choose Hide and Show Accounts. Let's say I don't want to see this asset account anymore. If I choose it in List, it'll also exclude it from Reports and Tools. Once I choose OK, it'll basically be like I deleted it, but it actually won't be removed from my file. So let's say a year down the line I need to go look in that account. I still haven't eliminated the data. I highly suggest you hide accounts before you delete them. One common question is, how do you close out a year in Quicken Essentials? There's no automated way to do this. If you really had your heart set on doing it, you'd have to duplicate your file in the Finder, go through, remove all your old transactions, and create an opening balance transaction that would correct the balances for that year. Well, I highly suggest you do not do it. Really, nowadays, there's no reason with the computing power and disk space. I think it's impractical to be doing it. And it's nice to keep that historical data around. It's surprising how much you have to go back into the past and look at transactions. It's also a lot easier to keep track of files, especially let's say you upgrade to a newer version. Instead of having to upgrade, let's say, 20 different files for each year, you have all your data for one single file. For people who are concerned about performance, you're not going to see a huge performance issue, if any, by having all your data in a single file. At the top of the register in the blue banner bar, you'll see the name of the account and you'll see a balance. There's different balances you can choose to show. Right now I'm showing the today's balance, and the today's balance is the balance as of today. Right now I'm recording this video September 4th, less the scheduled transactions that have not been marked as paid. Notice these two scheduled transactions are in the past and they affect the running balance, but they do not affect today's balance. Another one you can look at is the projected balance, and that'll show you basically the balance, what it will be for whatever date period that you're looking out for scheduled transactions in the future. I believe the default period is 15 days. And if you download transactions for the bank and you have it set up, you can choose to show view online balance. It's obviously grayed out here because I don't have any online access with this dummy data file. That balance that is being sent and that gets displayed here, two things to note about it. First of all, it's the balance being sent from the bank, the ledger bal. Your transactions could be totally erroneous and your balance could be totally incorrect over here, but it may display correctly and it's jiving with what your bank statement shows or your online bank access. Well, that makes sense because it's just pushing out that number from your bank. The other thing you have to note is some banks handle what balance they send to you differently. My bank actually shows you the available balance, which includes the pending transactions. Some actually show you the balance without the pending transactions. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. Sometimes it may look a little bit different than what you see. It's just that it has to deal with pending transactions. Filters are a good way to manipulate what data you actually see. At the top you'll see some bubbles. One's showing some dates, one's showing types, one's showing a status filter, and you have a reset filter button. A lot of new users come in, they import their data from either Quicken Windows or Quicken for Macintosh, and they only see the last 12 months of transactions, and they're all worried that they've lost all their data. No, most likely their data hasn't been lost because the default filter is to only show the last 12 months of transactions. You can actually click on this and choose to show different date range. You could actually choose all dates. I don't suggest that if you have a huge data file because you may see some performance issues, but you can go through and change different aspects of what you see. Is this category actually coming up as a spending or an income one? We'll get to categories in a little bit later. Status, you can see if you have which transactions are actually uncleared right now. It might help the people who are used to a reconciliation report that Quicken Essentials does not have. You can go through and see what transactions are uncategorized as well in case you miss some transactions, especially if you download things. But most likely download transactions should be categorized. But you can play with these to your heart's content. Don't worry about messing them up because you can always click on reset filters and go back to the default way of doing things. One thing I forgot to mention when I was discussing the filters is that these filters actually apply to transactions as you enter them as well. So let's just enter a dummy transaction right now. And for some hypothetical reason, let's say I have to enter it for 2008. We'll just use test as that category. It fills up the information. Notice the filter is set to show only the last 12 months. Notice what happens when I hit return. You'll get this warning that the transaction can't be shown in this filtered view. That does not mean the transaction wasn't recorded. It didn't mean the transaction vanished. It just can't be seen with the current filters that are applied. Actually, if I went in here and chose all dates and did a quick search for, what was it, test I did, I could see the transactions are there. Actually, I'd done 2 trials on them. But if I click reset filters, notice how they go away. So just keep note of how these filters apply to transactions as you enter.